Shalum. Shalom and welcome, my brothers and sisters. If you are one who seeks to do the will of the Almighty Father, He who we know, His name is Yahuah. He who manifests His word as Yahusha. For it is in His plan that we have been restored into fellowship with Him. Today is the 6th day, and many of you probably have heard me talk more frequently now about the correct way to guard and honor Shabbat. This message is not to argue, debate. This message is for those who are being drawn by the Almighty Father, those whose spirit is stirring to discover what is indeed true and set apart. Everyone of us have witnessed individuals or even ourselves who have said what we're saying is true. As we pursue set apartness, we desire to be confident in our decisions. To you, my brothers and sisters, if you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah, and this is The Inward Man. It is a series of recordings that reflect what is stirring within inside of me. At this very moment, at this moment in time, as I was pondering and praying, I was compelled to step to the mic and say to you who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, truly end times are here. Truly the world is spiraling into wickedness like never before. Do not be deceived and let someone tell you that Ecclesiastic says there's nothing new under the sun. That is true, but the scope of what is happening now and the magnitude has never occurred before. Understand what those verses mean, discern the life in them. But I'm not here to talk or debate about whether it has happened before or not. I'm here for this segment of the Inward Man to tell you, because He can. Why are things happening the way they are happening? Why are we in the position that we're in? Why were we born at this given time for such a time as this? Why did He choose our surroundings to be the way they are? Or was that His selection? And what we are witnessing is the fruit of the battle. My brothers, when I say because He can, I want to bring your attention to what stirred within me. What stirred inside of me. And I'm going to continue in spite of the phone ringing. And when I say because He can, my brothers and sisters, as I was pondering and praying and in communion with, I believe, the Spirit of the Almighty Father sent in Yahusha's name, and I recognize Yahusha, for no one can come unto the Father except by the Son. So we must recognize that the Father said He would send His set-apart Spirit in Yahusha's name. So the Spirit of Yahusha, I believe I was in communion with. And I believe that He was instructing me that in spite of man's desire to be used by Him, in spite of our desire and hunger to be chosen and used by Him and wanting certain positions, in spite of different individuals having envy to be leaders, we don't really know the full scope of the responsibility and the accountability that comes with the chosen of the Most High. Why? Because we think that from our studying, we think that from our praying, we think that because we may be leading a crowd or a growing movement or a growing camp, that makes us who we are. But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, because He can, the chosen leaders, the elders, the counselors for end times will begin to emerge and render all the words that is necessary to bring about set apartness and unity. The chosen ones of the Almighty Father, it is not because we would be more or better than anyone. It would not be because we did something much more than anyone else. other than one thing, and that is the desire to worship and obey. But that did not put any of us in the positions that we are in. Because he can, Yahuah, the Almighty One, he chose each and every one that he decided to make a statement, to build a story, to grow a narrative in the scriptures for us to learn, for us to look back and look at the things that have been written as a tutor to teach us, to help us move to maturity. Because he can, Yahuah is the Almighty One. He is the beginning and the end. Let me read 2 verses, if I may, my brothers and sisters. Revelation 21:6 said, and he said unto me, it is done. I am the Aleph and the Taw, the beginning and the end. To the one who thirsts, I shall give of the fountain of water of life without payment. He, Yahuah, is indeed the Aleph, the Taw, the beginning and the end. Because he can. He is the Almighty One. It is for this reason, my brothers and sisters, let us realize that he chooses whom he see fit. He directs the footsteps. He provides the instructions and orders that he see fit. Why? Because he can. Revelation 22:13 says, I am the Aleph and the Taw, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. End times. This is the plan of the Almighty Father Yahuah, who we will grow to recognize that it is through him, his word, his plan. It is through him who sent his word, his spirit, in the name of Yahusha. We must recognize and begin to discern and lift up Yahusha HaMashiach, and in our obedience and set apartness, we would recognize whom he chooses because he can, because that was his decision. We will witness that the rise of the true and chosen leaders for the 144,000 in great multitude who will come together, led by those who have been directed by the Almighty Father. It would be because this is who he has chosen, because he can, because he is the Almighty One. It's not going to be because someone championed a huge camp or massive numbers. It's going to be because that is who the Almighty Father has chosen. And we will begin to witness his chosen elders take on the mantle of maturity, the mantle of making serious decisions and choices. We will see the chosen leaders speak very adamantly what they are ordered to present before the drawn of Yahuah, the children of Yahuah. These are end times, my brothers and sisters. It is not a time for games. It is not a time for Hollywood. It is not a time for fantasy. It is a time for the execution of the works, the deeds, and actions ordered by he who is almighty. Because he can, this is when we begin to witness those who rise up in power and might. It is because Yahuah, the Almighty Father, Abba Father, has chosen it to be. Because he can. So do not look at someone and say, well, what did they do to be chosen? What did they do to be in that position? For there are any works that we can do that says, oh, if I do this, he'll make me a leader. If I do this, I'll be the shepherd. We have no clue to the full responsibility and accountability that comes with leadership amongst the Almighty Father. We think we do. We're only scratching the surface. It was as though the Spirit of Yahusha was saying, because he can, he will pick the instruments of his choosing to bring about the unity of an awakening nation. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters. Yahuah is the Almighty One. He is the beginning. He is the end. He is the Aleph. He is the Taw. We are about to witness some of the least expected people rise up, chosen by the Almighty Father, executing and rendering judgment and rendering discipline, speaking as they are given the words. And these things will happen with power and might. And when we see things happen in power and might, there are lives that grow into maturity. There are individuals who will shout hallelujah. And there will be death. There will be sickness. There will be obstacles removed. There will be times to come away from some who we may consider our closest of friends or allies. There will be times to purge, time to tell people to leave us, let us be, to step away from us. There will be times for us to step away from them. Even those whom we may say are our blood relatives or our closest friends. Because he can, it is his plan, and he will stitch together his children. He will gather his flock, those that he has chosen for his purpose to fulfill his promises. This life is real, my brothers and sisters. It is real because he can. So as we begin to see people emerge, let us not render quick decisions. Let us not be as those who rejected the prophets from days of old. Let us not be among those who killed the obedient ones of Yahuah. But let us indeed be as brothers and sisters awakening, hungry and thirsty for set apartness, hungry and thirsty to identify, to discern what is true, hungry and thirsty to worship and obey he who is the Almighty One, he who is the beginning and the end. And let us recognize we can only do that. We can only grow in maturity through his set apart spirit, sent in Yahusha's name. The spirit of Yahusha is among the drawn of Yahuah. The spirit of Yahuah, the spirit of Yahusha are one. And we will grow to understand what is expected. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters, because he can. In this moment in time, a moment in time, me, Symmanayah, was compelled to present this to you so that we will know that it's not something specifically that any individual have done. It wasn't anything specifically that Moses did. It wasn't anything specifically that Dawid did. It wasn't anything specifically that some of the patriarchs did that they can say they purchased the position that they were given. They were chosen by the Almighty Father because he can do that. And he did. And so will it be in the coming of days. We will see his leaders, his elders. We will see the two witnesses, two prophets, two anointed ones chosen. And I am compelled to believe that they are coming to render the judgment that is necessary to bind together an awakening nation. Their ministry is for the sole purposes of finalizing the unity of those who are drawn and will be drawn together and gathered for this final exodus to come, to await the physical return of Yahusha HaMashiach. The two witnesses, the two anointed ones, they will not be beamed down from Symmanayah, or commonly known by most as heaven. They are here and they are among us. And when we see them, they will render the necessary instructions and judgment necessary to prove that the power and might and presence of the Almighty Father Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name, is here, alive and well. And we will see that they will render the instructions necessary to bring about unity. And I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, the description that we see is just a tip of the iceberg. The description that is there in Revelation's 11th chapter is only a tip of the iceberg of the ministry of the two witnesses. They are here to render judgment. They are here to render orders. They are here to render what is necessary to bind together an awakening nation. And we will know who they are by their actions, not by their words of saying that they are our witness. We will know that they will not act alone, that the elders who are chosen by the Almighty Yahuah will be their support base, will confirm and recognize what they are doing. We will know that those who are anointed and called to be drawn together in the final exodus would recognize these two individuals. Soon and very soon, my brothers and sisters, an awakening like no other is about to enlarge. Why are those individuals being led or guided because he can, because Yahuwah has deemed it fit, and it is for his reason and his reason alone that he can do whatever he wants. Enough said, my brothers and sisters. Pray on these matters and know, in the midst of all the noise and confusion, in the midst of all the misunderstanding for the things that are written, as a result of people trying to master the letter, the text, in the midst of it all, power and might will follow those who are indeed anointed by the Father, and he alone will prove who his chosen are. Be encouraged, my brothers and sisters. Our redemption draws nigh. With that said, shalom. Shalom. Shalom.